Epilogue. It was as warm and clear a day as any Ponyville could hope to see. Not a cloud was in sight, and the sunlight made Twilight's castle glitter and shine in dozens of clear, iridescent colors within its crystal walls. Down below the castle, ponies milled about the town square, going about their business as on any other day. While vibrant, there was nothing unusual happening, and the market saw only slightly busier throngs of ponies coming, going, and spending their hard-earned bits. And at the edge of the square, standing clean and proud in the place it had occupied since time out of mind, was Sugarcube Corner. The rebuilt shop had been raised with enormous slabs of warm, brown stone, only a little taller than it had been before, but with a few extra wings to give the family within more living space. Although the stone had been laid as seamlessly and with as much expertise as only generations of rock farmers could bring, there were a few incongruous spots standing out in its facade. Here and there, little scraps of old wooden walls stood, blended with mortar and stone as cleanly as could be managed. Even so, at the edges of most of these older walls, ponies could still see faded scorch marks from where the fire had torn away the old building. Naturally, the Pies had offered to remove the old walls completely, but Carrot and Cupcake asked if they could be worked into the new structure instead. When asked why, Cupcake would only say that it seemed important. Now, those old sections still remained, almost invisible, but still clear as scars, never to fully fade away. They were almost like permanent reminders of everything that had gone before, as steadfast as the memories that would always be with the ponies who had endured those times. For her part, Starlight couldn't decide if the implications were grim or poetic. All in all, though, she supposed it was at least fitting. "It's hard to believe how far they've come," Princess Cadence said, following Starlight's eyes to the corner. "I think I've only recently started to relax a little, as far as all that's concerned," Starlight agreed. "It was touch and go for months. There were days when I thought it really was going to fall apart, even after all the effort they went to. Wounds like that take so much longer to heal than ponies think, and I've never seen circumstances make it so hard as theirs. I confess, I'm relieved too." "None of us could have done this without you," Starlight said, giving Cadence a small smile. "I don't think I've ever heard of a counselor as devoted as the one you recommended. Even the strongest among us sometimes need the expertise of others. I'm only glad it seems to have worked out. They will have trials ahead of them for the rest of their lives, but I think they will make it now. The darkest days are finally behind them." She turned back to Starlight and returned her smile. "But that's beside the point, isn't it?" Starlight gave Cadence a look of exaggerated annoyance. "No, nothing's changed between me and Sunburst." "Why not?" Cadence pouted. "It just never seems like the right time," Starlight sighed. "Something's always coming up, either in the Empire or here with Twilight. Life's kept us busy. And to tell you the truth, I think we're comfortable with the way things are. Maybe one day it'll feel right to grow a little closer. We're not in any rush." She gave a small laugh and shook her head. "Besides, Pumpkin just started Magic Kindergarten. What with his regular duties and traveling between the Empire and here to see her, he's not going to have any time to spare for me." "Well, if you're both happy, it's not really my business to pry," Cadence admitted primly. "But if I can be that annoying friend for just a little bit longer, don't take anything for granted too much. It always seems like we have all the time in the world, but we never really know when all the chances will suddenly be gone." "I think I understand that better than most," Starlight said, giving the corner another glance. Then they lapsed into silence for a little while, making their way back to Twilight's castle. "On that note," Cadence asked carefully, "how were Applejack and Hoops? I was so sad to hear things didn't work out between them after all." "They're doing all right as far as I can tell," Starlight said. "And he swings by every chance he gets when the team is within train or flying distance. It's a good thing, too. He's about the only pony who can keep up with Pound. That little colt is getting more and more reckless when Hoops is away, from what Cupcake tells me. He's going to be a hoofful for a long time to come." "No doubt," Cadence chuckled. "Has he been seeing any pony else in the meantime?" "Not that I've heard," Starlight shrugged. "Applejack's seeing someone new, though." She gave Cadence a sly look. "You're not going to believe who." "Who?" "She really won't ever quite grow up," Starlight thought with a wry grin. Cadence looked more like a school filly eager for gossip than an equestrian princess. "Fleetfoot." "Fleetfoot?" Cadence asked, brow shooting up incredulously. "From the Wonderbolts?" "The one and only," Starlight laughed. "Okay, no, you're right. I would not have guessed that one. How in Equestria did that come about?" "So I guess AJ had caught Soren's eye at some point, and he asked Rainbow Dash to set something up where they could run into each other," Starlight explained. "Well, you know Rainbow Dash. She went and set up this sort of community charity event where ponies could race against the Wonderbolts, and she basically dared Applejack that she couldn't even beat the trainees in a ground race." Starlight couldn't help giggling a little as she remembered the event. Long story short, bad idea. Applejack didn't just leave the recruits behind, she ran Soren and every pony else into the dust. I'm not sure I can say I'm surprised, Cadence laughed. What did Rainbow Dash think would happen? Not a total shutout like that, I guess. Apparently, Fleetfoot took it especially hard, so she hunted Applejack down afterwards for a bit of trash talk or something. Next thing every pony knew, they were dating. Huh, go figure, Cadence said. Yeah, so far they seem pretty happy together. I guess only time will tell. I suppose it will, Cadence agreed. She does seem drawn to competitive types though, doesn't she? Apparently, Starlight laughed. They reached the castle and parted ways inside the foyer. Twilight had set the rest of the afternoon aside for Cadence's visit, and though they had invited Starlight to join them at the spa and for coffee afterwards, she had declined. It seemed better for the two of them to have their time together, what with how rarely the chance for purely social visits came along. Instead, she made her way to her own rooms, shutting the door behind her as she made her way to the small desk she had set up beneath the window. Let's see, she mused, pulling out a drawer and scanning the scattered pages piled up inside. Stages 8 and 9 of Intrepid's Incantation of Insight still need the snags worked out of them, or the Curse of Eternal Shattering, that one backfired pretty horribly, and there's always the recataloguing of the library's nonfiction. The architectural and archaeology sections have been getting especially crowded lately. Yep, there's plenty to do. She pulled out Intrepid's Incantation and gave it a cursory glance as she tried to decide what she felt most up to tackling. As she passed over task after task, though, she started to realize she was already feeling cooped up. She had settled into her work at the castle years ago, but every now and then, she still felt the need to get out and break the routine, and maybe a few non-essential rules, every now and then. As she put the jobs away and pondered what activity she might be in the mood for, she found herself thinking back on her conversation with Cadence. It always seems like we have all the time in the world, but we never really know when all the chances will suddenly be gone. She frowned, annoyed at how the thought seemed to nag at her, as if the nosy princess were still there in the room with her. Even so, she couldn't help but feel her gaze drawn out over the town to Sugarcube Corner, standing just within sight of the center of town. Carrot and Cupcake might have mostly mended the rift between them over the years, thanks in no small part to their dedication and a good dose of professional guidance. Even so, Starlight still cringed to imagine how close it had all come to ending completely during those insane first days. Out of nowhere, Ponyville's healthiest and happiest family had been thrown into the worst storm imaginable. It would take a special group of Tartarian demons to think of any worse troubles to throw at them than what they had endured. Starlight closed the drawer and instead pulled out a clean sheet of stationery. Ink and quill came next, and before she could second-guess herself, she laid out her words in her dearest, most elegant magical script. Dear Sunburst, I hope this finds you well, and that those ice pixies you mentioned have stopped harassing the barrier around the city. Nothing urgent's been happening down here. I was just wondering if you'll have any extra time next time you come down to visit. The end.